Hi, welcome to another episode of Built from Nothing. My name's Adam. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Paid in Full. We're a fractional sales company where we build and implement resources, infrastructure, and systems into companies with existing sales teams or even solo founders that are looking to ramp up their sales processes and CRMs. So with that being said, I have a mission to redefine the sales space by empowering all levels of infrastructure, culture, leadership, and execution. Because sales can be a cruel world, and the limit of reps is not the world that we should be living in. So I'm taking it upon myself to redefine that space one business at a time. So I appreciate you coming along for the journey and watching me scale companies and scaling my own from within. So, all right, let's hop right into it. So we're going to be doing an audit today of a client that came to me recently looking for a full build out on their systems and processes. Now, this is a solo founder there in the real estate space. So we're going to be doing a full audit on the business, just as much so as how we can assist them. So number one, who do they help? They're in the real estate space. They are in the real estate investment side as well as on the transactional side as well. Now, what's the goal? He's making about $100,000 a quarter. So times that by 4, he's making roughly $400,000. He's looking to at least 2.5 times the revenue. So let's just say double his business. So between that, he wants to get to 800,000 within the next few months in terms of annual returns. So I don't see any reason why we can't go straight to $1 million. So we'll just shoot for that in terms of our build out and what we're looking to accomplish. Then in terms of the problem that he's facing, the biggest thing is leads are coming in. He's having the conversations, but he has to constantly spend the time doing the outreach and facilitating the fulfillment of the deal. So all of it's on his shoulders, and he doesn't necessarily have the time, and that's an issue, a time constraint on the following up, specifically because it's such a long sales cycle from initial conversation to moving the deal stage along to listing appointment or some sort of conversation where there's plan in place for this particular client that he's looking to take on and then get them across to selling the property or purchasing the property himself and then relisting for a flip. So the sales cycle is fairly long. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper into the scope of work that we're going to be designing for this client in terms of full build out. So typically we work directly with sales teams and teams that have appointment setters, closers, and foundational reps. So for this particular client, since he's a solo founder doing all of this work himself, we have to get a little bit, I'll say we'll have to finesse the system a little bit and change the way we put our infrastructure into this particular CRM. So for this particular client, we're going to break down our engines. And by engines, I mean the infrastructure that we're placing into each sector of the business. So for him, we reinvented our setter engine and transitioned it into a lead engine as an adaptation. And we're going to be implementing 4 things. We're going to be implementing a priority list infrastructure, so that's segregating and having dynamic lists for hot leads, warm leads, cold leads, depending on the specific timetable and style of lead that this particular client is bringing on. And then number 2, we're going to be adding automated email sequences depending on where they're at in the nurture process. So as an example, a 10-day nurture sequence, a 30-day or 90-day, whether they're cold, hot, warm, where they're at in the sales cycle. We're going to be implementing a lead status and lifestyle change automation. So this is going to automatically shift them from new to prospecting to nurture to SQL, which is sales qualified lead. So someone that's primed for purchase or primed for, for sale in this particular case to disqualify depending on the amount of time that they're in a particular deal phase. And then the next one is going to be a nurture stage and task queue. So some of this is going to have to be done manually. At this point in time, he's not at the point where he can have an AI voice agent call these clients. It needs to be one-to-one. So we're going to be having a nurture sequence set up for this particular client for each of the leads as it moves through the deal stages in this particular build out. And then number 2, as certain things are checked off or as certain deal stages take place, we're going to be adding in automatic task queues, whether that's an automatic SMS or whether that's a reminder to send out a particular SMS to this client or even a manual phone call. That's going to be very important since his relationship with this client is very one-to-one. You can't put too much of a robot or an AI infrastructure in between the two. And then the last one we're going to be implementing, which for this particular client is going to be a later built out, which is a lead scoring implementation. So as he adds to the pipeline, we need to know, okay, who's active and funneling those leads to the top of the pipeline. So in terms of activities, so who's clicking on the most links, who's reading most of his emails, who is going through his pipeline and maybe downloading resources regarding to the home value market or some target opt-in that he places out. So that's something that's going to come later. So that's going to be his lead engine build out. So that's the front end. What happens as soon as you populate a lead and what happens from there on and so forth, which is going to take me to the second part of the build out, which is going to be his sales engine, which is an adaptation from our closer engine, which helps facilitate leads. So in a traditional sales example where you would have a lead opt-in, they would be booked on a call, on a discovery call would take place, and then they're put into the sales pipeline. We're going to be driving each seller through a clear process from listing appointment to listing agreement and ultimately to the end of a closed deal. So that is the point of this engine, and the deliverables of that. We're going to build out the sales pipeline and create the necessary deal stages, and whether those transition through automatically or he does it manually as things are checked off. That way automatic workflows can be attached to those. So as an example, if he has an appointment booked and the lead is populated in the deal stage, automatically can have reminders getting sent out, a rescheduling link if needed, or pre-value assets can be sent out to this client via SMS or email, depending on how we want to do the build out. Getting people through a red zone, which is where deals are stalling. There's an agreement maybe that's been sent out, and maybe they haven't returned, and then so on and so forth through active on market or even purchased through him as the investor, and so on and so forth, and then the accompanying automations to that. And then this is something that we may do down the line because we're maybe just not there yet, which is a listing checklist. So depending on whether he's purchasing the property as an investment and needs to do the full tear down, rebuild, and flip, or whether he's putting it on the market directly, we are going to have the necessary steps that he needs to take it from active to our appointment set to paperwork in their hands, from contract signed to pre-listing setup, photos, etc. All the way through till paperwork in hand at the end of the closing table. And that's going to take me to the next part of this build out, which is going to be his appointment engine. Now this is backlogged for right now because he wants to move the timetables along fairly quickly. So what we want to do for him is, after we get the lead and sales engines built out, we want to put in the appointment engine, which is going to maximize show up rate and pre-frame the value for the appointment. So this is, as an example, which I may have mentioned earlier, which is going to be, as soon as an appointment is booked, he moves the deal cycle manually or automatically within the build out of his system. And then automatically it's going to get pre-call assets as if you were in a traditional closing route where you needed a video from the founder or a presumed value add opportunity to educate your clients on exactly what you do. Those are going to be your opportunities to do so. And then at the very end, just to make sure everything is automated correctly and it's tracking properly, so he has an idea of his input and his output. It's a real-time dashboard, so we have some specific key metrics that he wants to be tracking in terms of how many leads he's getting per week, per month, how many appointments he's booking, listings signed, properties purchased, cash flow from those properties, close rate, lead to listing, source breakdown, and so on and so forth. So that's how we're breaking down his build out. Now for the delivery of this is a relatively simple build. So this is going to probably take about 2 weeks for me to build out for him, at least phase one. And then phase two will go into the training and the break and fix, where we can test it and make sure we can train him, the founder, on how to use the system, make sure the necessary SOPs and training opportunities are there for him so that he's set up for success, so that as he wants to add on, we can have secondary sessions and do secondary build outs at an additional cost. So the goal is to maximize the amount of touches that are on his leads after he's had the initial phone call, and keeping him away from having to do that all manually, which is, number one, going to buy back his time, because that can be really expensive. If you're not able to prospect on the front end, then you're not able to prospect on the back end. And then leads are just going to fall off, and then you're losing time, you're losing money, and then at the end of the day, that's not a scalable system right there. So we want to provide that opportunity, and we want to take him to that particular phase that we need to get to, where he's having lead nurturing, lead follow-up on automatically. Now, if we wanted to take this a step further, we could integrate AI voice or conversation agents into the build out, which is going to be built off of Go High Level. If this was a sales team or a high level sales company that is working with multiple reps, I would have leaned more for HubSpot with some sort of integration on the dialer side so that we can do SMS workflows and so on and so forth. But since this is we'll call it a single use case or a single user, that doesn't make sense, which is why we're leaning for Go High Level. And for this particular client, I think AI voice and conversation agents is something that he is very interested in. For the front end, it doesn't necessarily make sense. As long as we can automate the rest of the system, I think we'll be very much set up for success, and we can easily get into that 2x or at least the 2.5x And then from there, it's just either maybe taking on a rep to assist him on the follow-up or assisting those processes. Probably a VA would be very much the best course of action, unless he's dealing with so much lead flow outside of manual cold outreach, where he needs to take on a rep to place in between him, the first initial appointment, the listing and presentation, and then at the very end transitioning them to either listing agreement or purchasing.